How's it going? How's it going? Wednesday night, Patterdale Terrier Talk. What's this? Bark 18. Live Your Life Dogs. New England Patterdale Terrier Club. PTCA. We're all involved. This is sponsored by the PTCA, just like all the other ones. And tonight we're just gonna we're gonna play some old footage of old terrier men working, and we could always talk in the chat. And I'll put in I'm gonna actually put the StreamYard link for anyone who wants to hop in and maybe say some, ask some questions, talk, whatever, maybe tell a story of their experience. But yeah, that's what we're gonna do tonight. And I'm gonna play this video right here. We're gonna let it go. Again, we'll talk in the chat, and again, I'll put up the link if anyone wants to hop in and talk or whatever, say something, tell some stories about when they were hunting, whatever, make it a fun night. But yeah, I'm gonna play this video, and again, we could chat it up in the chat in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe, share, please, and thanks, of course. And yeah, let me play this.
The Felham Moorland Working Terrier Club was founded in 1966 by a group of men in a Cumberland pub called the Greyhound Inn at Piker. It had 12 founder members. It was the brainchild of Cyril Tyson following a long, unsuccessful rescue attempt of one of his trapped terriers. Four of the original members, West Cumbrians Cyril Tyson, John Cowan, Cyril Hodgson, and Raymond Riddick, paid a nostalgic visit to the Greyhound and discussed how they helped form the club and their first meeting. John Cowan was elected as its first president. The club helps members on all matters relating to the working terrier. From these humble beginnings, the club has now more than 1,000 members throughout Britain. For rescues, it has access to earth-moving equipment, heat-seeking equipment, and a band of willing volunteers. It is respected as the authority in rescue techniques. It is the only club in the land to offer a national rescue service for trapped terriers. The first contact is the area representative, who coordinates and organizes the rescue with the help of willing volunteers. They work in their own time and ask for and expect no reward. The club holds meetings, social functions, and even has its own working terrier shows. There is an agreed code of conduct for the working of terriers. It's very important to note that the club does not condone in any way unofficial or illegal working or use of terriers. The club is unique thanks to its dedicated members. It was the first of its type in the world, now copied but never equaled. Early editions of their yearbook are collector's items and a mine of information, including reports of many of the rescues that have been made, many successful, some sadly not. The matter-of-fact style of writing does not convey the courage and tenacity of these men and their grinding hard work who turn out in all weathers and terrain to rescue trapped terriers. This video is about the men who founded this club, about the men who've bred these wonderful dogs in the past and are still breeding them now. These wonderful, lovable, brave, tough little dogs that we all love so much. Of course, there are many, many types of terriers, each bred for a different type of terrain. But they're also bred for temperament, for stamina, for courage, for common sense, a good nose, and for the ability to follow a fox to ground. Some of the breeds we will discuss in this video. Probably the most well-known fox terrier is the Jack Russell, or to give it its more correct name, the Parson Jack Russell, named after the Reverend John Jack Russell, who was a charismatic hunting parson who preached at Swimbridge in North Devon. Now, I was about to talk about Jack Russells, But as you can see, the cold, seeping rain off the North Sea has defeated us, and we have retreated indoors. But we can still talk about Jack Russells. Russell had very strong views on the size and shape of terriers. He reckoned that a good working terrier should be the same size, weight, and shape as a vixen fox, so that it could follow any fox to ground. And when he was reading theology at Oxford, his milkman had a very good terrier bitch, which Russell bought from the milkman, which he named Trump. And Trump was the foundation of all the line of Parson Jack Russell terriers, his famous terriers. Was a famous huntsman and became a great friend of the then Prince of Wales, who was later Edward VII, who used to come and hunt with him on occasion. And I am told that a picture of Trump still hangs in the tack room at Sandringham.
How long have you kept these Jack Russells? When we're saying that it's important to go back 4 and 5 and more generations, how long have you kept these?
The terriers I first had when I was 14, they were all Russell crosses. And then in the early 70s, I started breeding more of a type. And fortunately, I did get hold of a couple of dogs that were bred by Jack Price. I know Jack's into borders now, but at that time, Jack had probably the best strain of working Russells. What about? Good, honest finding, digging dogs, you could dig all day.
There was no hunting in I was brought up in Merthyr Tydfil, and there was no hunting there at all, but there was some boys used to come over from the Ronda, and used to go up into the Beacons, and the guy who used to live next door to me, he used to go with them. So I started going with him, and that's how I went into terriers, really. But in those days, you couldn't buy a terrier for a lot of money. I mean, they were like picked up gold, and I was lucky enough to have a terrier which came from the Sennybridge hunt, which was the old lupus breed of terriers, really. It was more of a white Celium than anything. A dog called Don, and I progressed from there, really, and I've still got the strain today. Well, it's a white bitch. It's a strain, like it's I found honestly brilliant little workers, and have always done the job for me.
It's more on the pure older strain of Russells that's just got diluted down. There's lots of people got them now that's not working the dogs, and instead of looking for a dog like this dog that's 7-year-old, he's worked all his life, he's still working, they'll go to a show and see a dog win a show, and they'll use that dog.
Right.
And the working side of them, it's just getting diluted down all the time, and it's getting more and more difficult every year as time goes on. And this is what I'm saying, there's a lot of genuine lads, packed in people I've known all my life, and they're just packed in because they just can't work the dogs like they'd be able to work them.
The late Barry Jones was president of the Fell and Moorland Working Terrier Club and chairman of the National Working Terrier Federation. He tells us how he found Mick, his best dog.
Went up to see Alan Timmins, Rocky they called him, and the dog went in like Alan was in and his wife, that's what her name is now. And the dog come out like he lifts the dog out of the back like, and we really like it off the shot, we don't like that dog like, you know. And he said, well, he's a dog like, he said, well, I've sold him like, you know, he said, I've been on the phone. Yeah. He said, he's bought him off me, like I said, has he paid any money? He says, no. I said, well, so yeah, he sold then. I said, I'll buy him off you, like, you know, and he said, well, I'll go very well, like, you know. Margaret, his wife was named. I said, Margaret, will get him out. So this dog's mine, like, you know.
Lucky for you.
So I could do another couple of quid on top, like, you know. It cost me about 12 quid, I think, like, at the time. And that was it, like, you know, I got the dog. But he was a cracking dog, he was. You know, he was brilliant. for work, like, you know, and he's a dog who could
Good finder, good stayer.
finder, stay, like, you know, come when cold, like, unless there was a fox or whatever just in front of him.
Yeah.
And he produced some good puppies.
Border Terriers were bred originally in the Cheviot Hills on the English-Scottish border. They had to have sufficient length of leg to follow a horse over the hills. They share a common ancestry with the Dandy Dinmont and the Bedlington Terrier. The purpose of the Border Terrier was to bolt foxes, but it had to be the right size to gain access to peat drains and runners. They required to be tough and uncompromising, with a weather-resistant coat, to work in one of the most wild and rugged areas of Britain. The name Border Terrier is thought to have derived from the border hunt, and they have been an integral part of the border hunt for over 150 years. Nowadays, followers use the versatile quadricycle. There's a great history of family involvement in the breed of Border Terriers. Families like the Dodds, Robsons, Carruthers, Headleys and Dixons. Michael Headley succeeded his father as master and huntsman of the Border Hounds and kennels the hounds at his home. John Digger Dixon has kept Border Terriers and whipped in for 50 years. Levi Oakes has bred pure Border Terriers since 1974.
The first Border bitch was a bitch called Misty, and that must be about 30 years ago now. And I went down Gloucester. I won't say the name of the farm because again, people get writing to him. He hasn't got any. It's not that. I know he hasn't got any, but he was a real gentleman fella. And I was just reading in Farmers Weekly, and there was some pups advertised, 5-month-old. So I rung him up. He says, "I'll be glad if you come down here and take some." He said, "I'm sick of them. They're a pest." He says, I can't do with them. So I thought, well, I wasn't feeling too well, so I said to the lad, "How are you fixed for a run?" I said, "It's a fair way, but Tetbury it was." So he says, "Aye, we'll go and have a look." And when we got there, there was 4 of them running around the farmyard, and he got some Salukis, and they were a picture. It was a sporting farm, it was all arable. And the dogs didn't belong to him, they belonged to his mother. And she'd had it served, brought it down there, left it, popped in the barn, never bothered. And the buggers were 5 months old. They'd wedded nearly all his cats. And of course he was telling me what they were doing, and I heard a lot of these tales, what they'd do and what they wouldn't do. But the best of it was, I wasn't feeling too well, but the lad was as fit as a flea. We couldn't catch him. We couldn't catch any of them at all.
And how long ago was this, Levi?
Must be 30 years ago
30
now.
years ago.
Yeah. Couldn't catch any of them at all. And he's a lovely blue dog, a blue and tan dog, a beauty, 5-month-old. And I really wanted this dog. He got a kink in his tail, but it wasn't much. But somebody had bought him and brought him back because of this kink in his tail. And I said to him, "I'm not worried about a kink in his tail." Like I said, like, "Are they a working bloodline?" He says to me, like, he says, "Well, that's the main thing is they've got to go into ground. They're only 5-month-old." He says, "And I'm fed up with my men digging them out." He says, "They're digging them out of rabbit earths and God knows what." He says, "And with some badger sets over there," he says, "and I shall be getting them lost." Well, it was a bit of a tale, and it wanted a bit of believing, really, because, well, I haven't seen them many dogs, borders, that would do that sort of thing. But I couldn't catch this dog. And these 2 bitches, one of them had a bit too much jacket on, and the other one was a bit on the small side. And then I heard a bark in the loose box, and I looked over in the loose box, and there was this other one. And I said to him, I says, "What's this one?" He says, "That's one of the Litter sisters." He says, which he says, it was a beggar for fighting, he says, with them all. So he says, "I've managed to catch that one before you've come, and I've shut it in there." So I said to him, "Well, I'm not going back without that, so I'll take that." And I had the shock of my life when I asked it. I said, "What do you want for them?" And he said, "Well, I'll be that glad to get shut of them," he says. "If you could win me 25 quid, you can have it." And the biggest mistake I ever made in my life was I didn't buy the lot. because if I could have caught the other two, George, I'd have took the lot. But I couldn't catch the buggers.
One Sunday afternoon at Dyke Nook Quarries near Hebden Bridge in Yorkshire, two border Lakeland cross terriers, Champ and Pip, went underground chasing foxes. Champ surfaced after 2 hours, but Pip did not come when called. By 7 o'clock it was pitch black, and they marked the entrance of the earth, and Steve Lutty, who was Pip's owner, left his coat by the earth as a scent marker. They came back the next morning at 5:30, Monday morning, and they could still hear the dog baiting in the earth, and they dug until it was time to go to work, and they came back after work and dug again until dusk. Steve contacted the Fell and Moorland Terrier Club, and they dug again on Wednesday and Thursday, but with no result. They could still hear the dog, but by this time, of course, she was getting weaker. On Friday, they were joined by the Fell and Moorland area rep, Chris Holton. Together, they got within 18 inches of the bitch, whose bark was weaker after 5 days trapped below ground. Large boulders and darkness stopped further progress. On Saturday, the 3 original terrier men were joined by more volunteers and began moving boulders with a turfer and bars.
Coming out with that. I looked at it. Don't die. You've got to file that up out bit for the cats, yeah. Let's just have another one here. Torching it, Bob. Come on, then. Right, that's it. Come on, then. No, can you film it again?
After several hours of back-breaking work, the heartening sight of Pip's face was seen by torchlight through a small crack in the rocks.
There's some open there, all right?
Can you see down?
More stone was removed, and Pip, trapped for 6 days, was rescued from certain death.
Come on, Bill.
Good lass. Come on. Come on, Pip. Good lass. Come on. Come on, lass. Good girl.
Good girl. Good girl.
Pip. Yeah. Come on, Pip.
Moments after the men were leaving the rescue site, there was a large fall of rock behind them.
Bloody hell. That was close.
Hell.
Oh dear.
Someone smiled on them that day. In all, some 100 tons of rocks were moved to rescue Pip. Steve and all the men on the dig had nothing but praise for Rep Chris Holton and the Fell and Moorland Club for the organisation of the rescue, and especially from Steve for the saving of his friend's life. Pip, she was given food and water and quickly recovered. The following day, she was back at work doing a bit of rabbiting. Another Pip, this time a red fell terrier bitch, became stuck on a narrow ledge 30 feet from the top of a cliff face in Snowdonia after chasing a hunted fox. Frank Riley, himself a terrier man, was lured by rope to attempt the rescue. There was a 50-foot sheer drop below to the rocks.
On again. Right. Tell us when you want to take in.
He's got the dog!
Although the arduous task of removing rock or digging was not needed, Frank from the Fell and Moorland Club carried out the rescue in a professional and effective manner. This unassuming man, as many of them are, was warmly congratulated by Pip's owner, Alan Owen, the master and huntsman of the Nant Coal Valley Foxhounds.
Actually, what happened yesterday, Alan? How did the terrier come to get down there, like, or get there?
We were hunting up on that bit of rough ground up there, and we had a fox in the ground, and we bolted him, and he went headlong down that crag, and the little terrier got excited and she went down after the hounds.
These were just two of the rescues carried out by the Fell and Moorland Terrier Club all over the country. Generally accepted as one of the best breed of terrier, the original Lakeland Terrier has existed in the Lake District for centuries. In the last 100 years, the working Lakeland and show Lakeland have split and now show a marked difference. Fell, Patterdale and Black Terriers are all names given to descendants of the working Lakeland, but they are mostly all called Fell Terriers. To withstand the hard winters and harsh terrain of the fells, they need sufficient length of leg to negotiate rocks and a harsh, dense, weather-resistant coat. The legendary Mr. Cyril Bray, a schoolmaster of Kirby Lonsdale, Westmoreland, was one of the most noted and respected breeders of working terriers in the last 100 years. He's on the right of this photo with Rusty, one of his finest terriers. Wally Wild is on the left with Kipper, Rusty's brother. Frank Buck from Leyburn, North Yorkshire, an associate of Mr. Bray, continued the line. The line from Mr. Bray's Rusty and Frank Buck's Tex still produce excellent dogs.
But when you first started with terriers, who was the terrier man or men who you looked up to? Or in other words, who were the best terrier men in them days?
Well, definitely the two best terrier breeders that I've ever come across in my time was definitely Mr. Bray and probably Frank Buck as second.
John Parks has Fell Terriers that he originally bought from Frank Buck.
Mr. Bray got one, they called it Bonnie, which he later gave to me. And Monty, the dog I wanted as a pup, Frank had got it, and he'd actually sold it as a pup. Anyway, he sold it, and I thought, bloody hell, I desperately wanted that dog. You know, when someone appeals to you, you want it. When you're a lad like you wanted it. You know? Took your eye. And anyway, one Saturday morning, phone rung, and Frank rings up. He says, I've got your dog back. I said, I've got Monty back. He says, woman that got it's died. So, I opened them all to do. I says, right, I'll be up. And I went straight up to Laban.
Push back in again.
No motor car.
Motor car.
And I set off in motor car and I went straight up there and Ivy were going shopping. And I'll never forget it, the Ilman Super Minx car and had his master's voice. First one at first, not a valve radio, first, you know, one with, and it's playing up back window. And Ivy said, it's a good tone, that wireless. And thought no more about it. Goes to the house and you were always welcome at books, there were always something to eat, you know. And we went in and anyway, Ivy went shopping after a bit, she come back and we had dinner and I'd getting the dog. Anyway, it come to go in like 3 or 4 o'clock time. Ivy says, do you want to sell that lady? I said, well, I said, how much is the dog? So Frank says, 12 quid. So I says, I'll swap you at wireless for the dog. And I got the wireless, and that wireless was still going when Frank booked out. And that's as true as I'm stood here. Yeah.
Maurice Bell is a sheep farmer and master and huntsman of the Wensleydale. He kennels hounds on his farm in the beautiful but sometimes inhospitable terrain of the Wensleydale Hills.
Oh, I like a natural felt terrier. I don't care what colour they are, whether red, black, or tan. This old bitch here, that's my favourite terrier. She's a hard jacket. She's not too big. She's actually she went to Yorkshire Show when she was 3 or 4 years in, but I mean, my daughter took her, I didn't take her. I'm not a showman, but they must work for me. They're no good. I don't care what they look like. They must work. I have a young dog now, a young black one now. It's no to look at, but absolutely unbelievable. She's just what I like in a working terrier. But I don't like them too big. I don't like them too broad. They want to be on a bit of leg as long as they're not too wide. But what's suitable for my type of country? Because when they're hunting up here, they have to go all day on couplings, and it's a hard job. They travel through ling, briar, bracken, and when it's snow, they're up to belly in snow all day and ice. They've got to be tough. But a jacket is essential. They must have a hard jacket. No good these smooth coated ones, and these with a lot of jacket. You get these with a lot of jacket, go into a feet hole, and they come out absolutely balled up. They'll never starve before long. I've had them an awful lot of years. I mean, we've kept the same type of terrier and tried to keep them, but you know, you've got to put a bit of fresh blood in. A dog we used was Harry Hardesty Turk. He was a famous dog in them days. Good work dog, worked with Melrek Foxhound, and everybody seemed to want to put some Turk blood. Well, put some Turk blood in them. It's a long way back. A long way back. These terriers, they used to walls, they get over walls, they get over fences, and some of the places, you know, that's the job. They're bred for work, and that's what they enjoy doing. I'm a very, very fair man. I'm not a cruel man. Maybe lots of people think I am, but I'm not. I like to treat them well. They say, well, you know, when they get old, you just put them down. We have an old sheepdog. He just died this spring. He was 18-year-old, and our Wendy's old Ross would be about 16-year-old. This is 8-year-old, and maybe the best working days are over. I think world of them. There's no way she's going to be put down. She'll stay up here unless she starts suffering. But they're friends. They work for you. They do their best for you. So you have to look after them.
Ken Gould is a well-known breeder of black terriers.
As the black dog, we didn't seem to throw the pups that the black dog did, you know. Russells are a lot harder to breed than black dogs, I think. Black dogs are a different animal.
Yeah.
Modern technology has come to the aid of terrier men trying to locate their dogs below ground. Terrier man Jim McIver fits a locator collar containing a lightweight transmitter around his dog's neck. It sends a bleeping signal to a handheld receiver fitted with a gauge, which indicates the position of the dog and allows the terrier man to plot its movement below grounds. It has a range of about 15 feet. Master and huntsman Mark Hankinson also takes the opportunity to brief the terrier man on where permission has been given to dig. A fox has gone to ground here, so all the exits from the earth are blocked, some with stones, some with nets. A black terrier is sent down to flush the fox out. The listening device plots the dog's movements. And the terrier men listen for the terrier to speak to the fox. Success! The fox is caught in one of the nets. It is dispatched humanely. Not all digs go according to plan. Despite all their planning, this fox outwits them.
I like Bedlingtons because I'd seen a friend of mine's work in Stuart Staler's famous Bedlington Rambo. I've seen him hunting working cover, speaking on a line. I've seen him working foxes, and it was a good, honest, all-round working Bedlington. There's something about him, the character, the depth of sense of smell, all sort of things like that. Just good, honest, all-round working terrier. They're not just for a single purpose digging foxes. They're just an all-round working terrier, providing you've got the right stuff. You know, you've got to have the right lines. First and foremost, I use them for working fox above and below ground. Very deep scented, very good hunting on top cover. Face any cover, nettles, brambles, no matter how thick. Stamina, they'll hunt all day long. They just bottomless stamina. Just keep going. That's what I like about them. There are a few Kennel Club registered working Bedlingtons out there. Terry Ahern is one man I know has got 3 or 4. Obviously Stuart Staley's dog Rambo, but a lot of them that predominantly show type, they're just nothing. They're just a mere shadow of the former working Bedlington. They're not. The fire's gone. The instinct. I think the Bedlington must be one of the oldest breeds of working terrier in Britain. I mean, they're dating back to the early 1800s, 1820s. The original one, Piper, bred by Joseph Ainsley, way back. I think that was the start of the original line. From what I've read and what I've been told, I think Piper was about 15 inches at the shoulder and about 14 pound in weight. Very linty coated, but very game.
If you're wanting to work a terrier as a fox, it's sensible to have a terrier that conforms as much to a fox's conformation as possible. They're non-beasts of Bedlington. I mean, I've never had any that have been badly injured with a fox. They've gone hold their own with a fox, for most of them. Not even like that. I like the character, the temperament. No, there's no safer terrier with children than the Bedlington. No safer terrier. All Marquis grew up with art terriers, very art terriers. And I wouldn't expect they would ever harm them. They must have been the world's best. I've never had a Bedlington that bit the child, and I've never heard of one that did. And not only that, they're easy whelpers. I've never had one that needed any assistance. In all the lists I've read in 52 years, I've never had one that needed assistance. We had this meeting, and there was one bloke there, and he was complaining about terriers being too big. His terriers got to when they were in earth, they've got to dig their way in, and should for that. And he was wanting Bedlington 14-inch legs. Well, to me, a Bedlington that size is a wheel. That's why they're so successful in Foxy, because you can get a bigger terrier than any other terrier. My terriers worked with 9 different packs, roundabout and that.
Sealyhams were evolved by Captain Edwards of Sealyham in Pembrokeshire, who wanted a terrier that would face anything. Unfortunately, pure working Sealyhams are not that common today, and it is becoming more difficult to find the breeding lines to continue this type. Jimmy Thompson from Durham, a man renowned for earlier major rescues, still keeps a strain of working Sealyhams.
Well, originally, my first dogs came from a Mr. Gunn from Cattery. It's pretty near Richmond, where the racing stables are. I saw an advert in the local paper. I went along and he had these little dogs. I took a fancy to them, and that's how I originally got them. As far as I can gather, from what I've been told from Mr. Gunn, his father and Cyril Bray were very good friends, digging friends, and they came originally through Cyril Bray, and Cyril Bray is reputed to have got them from Joyce and Lucas. That's where the Sealyham connection comes in, and when you look at them and you look at the terriers on the front of Joyce and Lucas's boot, they are the same dogs, so I would imagine it would be about right. You've got an interesting fact regarding the Sealyham breed. If you look at this little bitch here, if you can get a close of her, she has a walleye. Now every 2 or 3 generations, we took a puppy or 2 puppies in a litter with a walleye, and that was reputed to come. How that came about was because Joyce and Lucas used the corgi in the creating of his strain. The corgis were noted to have walleyes.
Captain Justin Lucas worked his terriers at Gersby Hall. Author of Hunt and Working Terriers, the Bible for working terrier men, he was known as the father of the Sealyham.
I've had these dogs for 35 years now. The same strain, same terriers. I would say the best thing about them really is like where we work our dogs, you've got to have a dog that's got a nose, it's got a good nose, so that loads of large earths, sand earths, and tight places, yeah, where a big dog can't get, and where you get foxes and what have you digging on away from you, you know. So good nose, staying power, dogs that are willing to stay 4 and 5 hours if you've got there, and dogs that will just shift foxes quickly when you've got there as well, you know, especially on hunting days. You need a terrier that'll get another nip and make them move a bit. So they're the main things that you want in a terrier, especially a good nose, I would say.
Well, Jimmy started taking us out further while I was like a kid, and then eventually like he took us out foxing, and then well, this is the original first dog that I've ever owned.
The club holds many working terrier shows around the country, where old and new friends meet to talk about just about anything to do with dogs. The highlight of the show year is the club's Champion of Champions show at Shugborough. Only the very best examples of their breed are shown. It's a must for breeders and terrier men alike. Neil Dewhurst is one of the top judges. He has his own pack of hounds and was a terrier man to the Ludlow and Wheatland hunts.
What did you think of the class of terriers today at the Champion of Champions with the terriers, Neil?
It was fairly cut and dry, to be quite honest. The terriers were nice, all of them, but there was just 2 that stood out to me. Well, 4 that stood out to me. 2 black dogs there, which people tend to call Patterdale, which we all know are just the black label. They were Spanimal, good heads, everything about them was fine, but they were just reducing weight a bit to make them Spanimal. The dog I gave the championship to was well covered, and he had a good full body, and yet he was still easily Spanimal, which put him far better than the 2 blacks. The Russell, which Greg Mosley, of course, has bred, and lovely dog in its own right, but just didn't have the quality of head and coat as a Lakeland. I like Patterdale Terrier. But as I say, although I didn't know it and I didn't recognise the dog, I give the same dog a championship about 5 years ago. So I didn't actually recognise the dog. So there you go. Yeah, quality is just held with the dog. Yeah.
George Hardy, the club's chairman and 40 years a terrier man, judging this class, knows the importance of the younger generation and has a friendly word with the proud owners. Tony Kirby, a past president of the club, took time out from his judging to talk to the gaffer, a man who needs no introduction, but sadly is no longer with us. Roger Westmoreland, joint master to the Coniston, and one of the few to rise from terrier man to master, chats with Ken Harrison, an experienced terrier man in Lincolnshire and the Lake District. With them is Stan Mattison, joint master of the Blencathra.
You get a hard terrier, push it back, push that fox back, and that's when you end up in trouble. If you would, you know, I prefer a dog that will go in and bay 20 minutes or so, come out, stand back, keep quiet, and he usually pops out. But you can't. Today, somehow, people haven't got the patience.
No, to stop them.
There's a lot of terrier men today telling the dog what to do, not letting the dog tell them what to do.
If you could call it out of a bad spot and keep quiet, just as Roger said, mate will generally follow. I know John Dixon with Lownsley had one. Meg, it was called, our black bitch, I remember it was. Maurice Bell got it given because it were in hens. Maurice gave it to Dido, or John Dixon, who was with Lownsley then, and he could call it out, and he bolted many and many.
But there's difference, you know, there's good borders, there's good lake and cross. I wouldn't knock any of it, that's really my favourite one. Yeah. That's right.
The size is important as well.
Well, that's right. Not be too big, as long as it's good and you know, that in the front. Yes.
If you know your fox is not going to bolt and it's just going to sit there and sulk and terriers baying and baying away at it, if you can shout that terrier out, mate, it generally comes.
But it's like the old saying, there's horses for courses.
Definitely.
Horses. There's dogs for jobs. And that's knowing your dog.
There's an astonishing wealth of knowledge and experience amongst club members. Nostalgia and the legends they have known are high on the list when they get together. They tell wonderful stories of long ago, and their tales are worth listening to.
And there's a big machine there digging, and it's like digging this ash. That dog went in, and it was in all day. It's like they pulled hundreds of tons back. And when we got to dog, they would dig through with shovel, and they got to dog, and then it just kept working up, and it got into this. Oh, I don't know what the hell it was. But the dog, it went from black and tan to pink, and it was as pink paint. It hadn't a black hair on it or a ginger hair, the dog was pink.
But it had all its hair on it.
It had all its hair on, and it dyed it pink. And when we got the dead terrier, it was pink, and so was Pop.
Two old ladies came down one day. We watched them, and I said, there's two people coming up, fella, and they're carrying the dog with them that I thought was a Jack Russell dog. And when they landed down, I said, where's your dog? He said, what dog? I said, you were carrying a dog down fell. Oh no, it was a lamb. Well, I said, where do you carry that from? Oh, right on Skyline, there was no sheep. And they carried this lamb 2 mile off fell, down to Bournemouth fell, and then just left it there. And I said, well, what's it going to do? I said, well, they don't know where it's at. Oh, I don't know. So I just started to look around on that after. But anyway, they said, are these yours in here? I said, yeah. Well, you want to be ashamed, he said. Keeping hounds passed up like that, they should be out and running about free. And if you hadn't been about, would have let them out. I said, well, I'd have took your bloody rucksack in the river. I said, if you'd been, you know, it's nothing to do with them. They're in good conditions. We look after them.
I think if I was giving advice to anyone, and I'm sure they'll agree with me, is that I think the first bit of advice is to respect the animal that you hunt. You know, the aunties, for instance, think that you know, we're all a bunch of murderers and we couldn't give a damn about the animals we hunt. But I've always been led to believe that you must respect the animal you hunt. And what people don't understand, what the general public don't understand, is that terrier work is the most humane way of controlling foxes, and it's the most efficient way.
But I wouldn't swap borders for anything. No, I know that they're hard to get hold of, and I mean now, and you can get borders, you can pick up borders, but they just don't gel. And you've just got to work at it. And once you've got them, you've got to keep hold of them.
They fetched up the remark about people talking these good Irish Terriers years ago, Russells. They actually came off John Hodder and Bro Cartwright from down Gloucestershire. They both died in the early 70s. They'd both been well up in their 80s when they died. They got them off Arthur Heinemann. Them was the proper Russells. They sent 10 or 12 to a couple of people in Ireland, and while they was in Ireland, a little bit of white English Bull Terrier was put into them. Then a man called Eric Furnace, who used to have a private pack of bloodhounds, he fetched about 7 of them back from Ireland, and that's where Terry Duggan got his first dogs from. Then Jack Price got them off Terry Duggan, and Johnny Richards had a lot of that blood in the 60s and 70s, and they were good working dogs, because basically they were the proper old Ilfracombe badger digging dogs, direct from Heinemann, but in Ireland they put a little bit of white English Bull Terrier into them.
I came off Ben Hill one day with hounds, and I'm going down with terriers and hounds, walking down. There's a lady walking up with 2 Labradors and 2 kids, 2 little lasses. Well, she just lapped her arms around these kids and these dogs. And I said, I stopped on purpose. I said, what's the matter, love? Oh, she said, your hound. I said, I'm not bothered them. You ain't worried, I'm not bothered them. And it was rather warm, and hounds just flopped down and laid down. And she said, it's unbelievable. My neighbour said that they were a savage animal and they were. No, I said, our kids dress them up and put them in brownies. They dress pups up and old bitch done that. I said, they play away and they let them out. And I stopped on purpose about a quarter of an hour, and you know, the kids came round. And she said, wait till I go home. My neighbour, she said, she used to what on today because she'd been still into it. Hounds were cruel and they were savage dogs and they were, you know, I mean, they don't understand. They just don't understand.
The one thing I learned was out there, and it's a thing that Mr. Bray and Frank Buckler is never put 2 terriers. If you don't know the place, don't put 2 terriers. And often on the hillside, out, if the fox is only just, and it's a rocky place, be careful, because them places are often the worst, because that's why the fox is just laid inside.
I had a 4-day rescue in a big rock place just round the corner, and we're just about giving hope on the job till the last day, and we had a 15-foot shaft dug into the hillside, and how we found the dog was still another 15 foot on, and we never reached there in time. So we had somebody hammer from the inside of the hole, and we walked about on the top till we heard the sound of the hammering, and we measured 15 foot out from that position, took a JCB and dug down and dropped straight on top of the terrier and got her out alive.
We hope you've enjoyed this tribute to a courageous and often unsung breed of dog, and to the members of the Fell and Moorland Working Terrier Club who give so much. We would like to leave you with the objectives of the club: to rescue trapped terriers, to improve the breeds of working terriers by retaining old strains, and to encourage the rural art of working terrier shows.
A lick on the hand will console you, for a truer friend man never had. So always remember your prayers, protect them from wet and from cold, for the love of a type for his master can never be measured in gold.
Foxes, and it's the most efficient way.
But I wouldn't swap borders for anything. No, I know that they're hard to get hold of, and I mean now, and you can get borders, you can pick up borders, but they just don't gel. And you've just got to work at it. And once you've got them, you've got to keep hold of them.
They fetched up the remark about people talking these good Irish Terriers years ago, Russells. They actually came off John Honor and Bro Cartwright from down Gloucestershire. They both died in the early 70s. They'd both been well up in their 80s when they died. They got them off Arthur Heinemann. Them was the proper Russells. They sent 10 or 12 to a couple of people in Ireland, and while they was in Ireland, a little bit of white English Bull Terrier was put into them. Then a man called Eric Furnace, who used to have a private pack of bloodhounds, he fetched about 7 of them back from Ireland, and that's where Terry Duggan got his first dogs from. Then Jack Price got them off Terry Duggan, and Johnny Richards had a lot of that blood in the 60s and 70s, and they were good working dogs, because basically they were the proper old Ilfracombe badger digging dogs, direct from Heinemann, but in Ireland they put a little bit of white English Bull Terrier into them.
I came off Ben Hill one day with hounds, and I'd coming down with terriers and hounds, walking down. There's a lady walking up with 2 Labradors and 2 kids, 2 little lasses. We should have lapped her arms around these kids and these dogs. And I said, I stopped on purpose. I said, what's the matter, love? Oh, she said, your hound. I said, I'm not bother them. You ain't worried, they're not bother them. And it was rather warm, and hounds just flopped down and laid down. And she said, it's unbelievable. My neighbour said that they were a savage animal, and they were. No, I said, our kids dress them up and put them in browns. They dress pups up and all bitched under. I said, they play away and they let them out. And I stopped on purpose about a quarter of an hour, and the kids came round, and she said, wait till I go home. My neighbour, she said, she used to want to do, because she'd been still into it. Hounds were cruel, and they were savage dogs, and they were, I mean, they don't understand. They just don't understand.
And one thing I learned was out there, and it's a thing that Mr. Bray and Frank Buckler is never put 2 terriers. If you don't know the place, don't put 2 terriers. And often on a hillside, out, if the fox is only just and it's a rocky place, be careful, because them places are often the worst, because that's why the fox is just laid inside.
I had a 4-day rescue in a big rock place just round the corner, and we're just about giving hope on the job till the last day, and we had a 15-foot shaft dug into the hillside, and how we found the dog was still another 15 foot on, and we never reached there in time. So we had somebody hammer from the inside of the hole, and we walked about on the top till we heard the sound of the hammering, and we measured 15 foot out from that position, took a JCB and dug down and dropped straight on top of the terrier and got her out alive.
We hope you've enjoyed this tribute to a courageous and often unsung breed of dog, and to the members of the Fell and Moorland Working Terrier Club who give so much. We would like to leave you with the objectives of the club: to rescue trapped terriers, to improve the breeds of working terriers by retaining old strains, and to encourage the rural art of working terrier shows.
A lick on the hand will console you, for a truer friend man never has. So always remember your terriers, protect them from wet and from cold, for the love of a tyke for his master can never be measured in gold.
Okay guys, follow me now. This one, yeah. What? Let me see. Okay, this one. How? Wait, what? Bro, wait, what?
about him. And I'm very glad to say that when he goes, the secrets of his trade won't die with him, because he's got an inseparable companion. Young Jamie, his grandson, is just as keen on natural history and sport as Bert is, and he couldn't have picked a better granddad to show him how to go on in the countryside. And I reckon that when they've summered and wintered a few more times together, that young Jamie will be a right chip off the old block.
He's a big otter, Pad. See? That's a dog otter. So you see the toes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Dog's got 4 toes, and otter has got 5, see. Now, going over here, you see, there's a bitch otter, see. Now, that's a smaller Pad altogether. See, and them and the bitch otters going out into the water.
I love to study otters because they're the most elusive, I think, of all our wild animals. What I used to do for a living was pest control. Anything in the pest line.
There's some more pads here.
Is there?
Yeah,
What are they?
they're otters. I think they're otters anyway. They've got 5 toes.
I personally think that every animal, even from the biggest vermin out, have got a place. Foxes have got their place. Badgers have got their place. Otters, everything. The main place I think they've got is they take the weakest of another species, and I think by them taking the weakest of the other species, they strengthen that species, because if you breed from anything weak, you're bound to have weaker stuff.
It's a far cry from that quiet stream where Bert and Jamie found clues of otters' secret lives to the rural razzmatazz of the Great Yorkshire Show. Countrymen and townsfolk who love the countryside grow nostalgic over ancient traditions. They enjoy the colour and pageantry of foxhounds and horses and flamboyant horsey folk parading round the showroom. It's meat and drink to young Jamie, a quiet lad up from the country, to see how the other half lives and to learn the relationships between the tough working terriers that Grandad has at home and the same dogs prissed up like fashion models for the show ring as if butter wouldn't melt in their mouths.
He's got a good head on him. Too big for my opinion. His feet are wrong. Look. So turn his feet out.
That one.
Yeah. Okay.
What do you think of that one?
That is quite good.
I like that one, though.
Yeah.
Not too bad to be there.
There again, you see, there's another dog that didn't all put together, you see. His back end don't belong to the see. Now he's the opposite to the one on the other side, see. From his nose, right back to his loins, he's a lovely dog.
The proof of the pudding's in the eating. You can't hunt foxes underground, so a good terrier man knows every hole where a fox may lurk. He goes round the day before the meet to bolt the foxes with his terriers and stop up the holes to encourage them to lie out above ground.
Looks like you.